Welcome back to On Rate Podcast. You have Elijah here alongside Grant. NFL season just wrapped up. It's kind of been one of the bad weeks where coaches are getting let go. Teams' playoff hopes were shot down over the weekend. All the teams like the Lions have come to a realization they just lost the first pick. So, the season has kind of all come to a wrap here. And, I think we're going to kick off to an interesting firing. First things first, and that would be what the Dolphins did, and that's letting go of Brian Flores. I know both of us kind of have strong opinions on this. So, I'll kick it off to you first.
Yeah.
Kind of what are your thoughts on, him, first of all, getting let go, and then we'll go down the line to some of the other coaches.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, the thing with him is just was so interesting. And I feel like, you look at the situation he was in, not the greatest team when he inherited them. They were able to – they started off 1-7 this year, won like 8 straight games. Ended up finishing like 10-6 last year. They didn't make the playoffs the last couple of years, which I know, that's a lot of like what, kind of like rests on coaches' shoulders is like playoff appearances and such. But it doesn't really make a ton of sense. Like, I feel like he had to kind of endure, just a lot of different things going on, from just like a GM standpoint. Like, they had like probably one of the worst O-lines in the league, and they traded away like arguably like one of the best left tackles in the league to the Texans a couple years back. They shipped off Minkah Fitzpatrick, like all-pro safety. They shipped him off to the Steelers, a couple years back. So I think, and obviously I know like coaches and GMs and like the owners, they all kind of like have like a hand in the pot some way somehow. But I don't think he was like behind those types of things, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like he took like what he was working with, which was very little, and, it was able to make it happen. Surprisingly, he's one of the only coaches from the Belichick coaching tree that's, or like kind of like, came up under Belichick a little bit that's actually done something. A lot of these coaches, other ones we'll talk about, a couple of them were in New England at one point, but yeah, this doesn't really make a ton of sense. I always feel like it's, you look at like the NFL overall, there's not a lot of diversity, when it comes to coaches. If I'm not mistaken, there might have been like 2 or 3 black coaches this year, including him. I think it's him, and then it was a guy Cully that's in Houston.
Tomlin.
Yep, and Tomlin. Yep. So like, I feel like, Tomlin's obviously done a great job.
3 out of what, 30? 3 out of 32?
Yeah, 3 out of 30. Yeah. So Tomlin's obviously, his resume speaks for himself. They'd be crazy to try to run him out of town. But like, I just feel like sometimes the leash is just short, when it comes to like, black coaches. I mean, you look at guys like, Dan Campbell, Brandon Staley. We watched Brandon Staley like cause his team a playoff spot on live TV. Everybody got to see it. And he working with, he got the quarterback that the Dolphins probably should have drafted. He working with a lot more than what Brian Flores is working with. And he was still just, the Dolphins were on the cusp of making it, and the Chargers ended up taking themselves out of the playoffs. So, I don't know, it's just interesting. I mean, obviously if a coach is not producing and just like not doing what he needs to do, or just kind of, acting like Urban Meyer or Joe Judge, it makes sense, to kind of like let them go. But I just feel like sometimes like, sometimes I feel like black coaches don't really get they kind of get the short end of the stick in a lot of different situations.
No, I completely agree. And I think I couldn't tell you what their record was the year before you got there, but going 10-6 and then finishing, what did they finish with this year? 99. Yeah. So two above 500 seasons. And most years at 10-6, you're going to make the playoffs. That's an anomaly to not make the playoffs and going in 10-6. So that's bad luck. That's just the way the way the cards fell that year. But I'd say I would, if I was a part of that fan base, I would see the writing on the wall and see what he has put together. Kind of the securing the draft picks and kind of just turning the team around and making them a formidable team. And finishing very strong this year. Winning like 8 or 9 games in a row, or eight or 9 games near the end of the year. So it's kind of, I would say, just kind of early. I would want at least one more year of that. If I was in their fan base or if I was a part of that organization, I would say, okay, let's see what at least one more year can do. And if it is true that the rumors that he wanted a different quarterback and he took Tua, and you would have to begin to look at, okay, well, what if he did have this guy here?
Yep.
What if Justin Herbert was running this team? Is that a couple more wins? Is that an 11-5 the year before possibly? Is that 11-6 this year or whatever? So I think it's just who, and then on top of that, who are you going to go out and get? I would say there's not a lot of, at least that I could think of, great young names out there, and he's probably going to land again another coaching job. I would imagine him. We keep bringing up Urban Meyer. He brought up Urban Meyer. Jacksonville, I could see him landing there. See what he could do with Trevor Lawrence,
Chicago,
and a lot of their good young picks and a lot of cap space. And
you would assume he would get hired first out of like the whole group of guys that just got fired, because I think he's the only one that had a winning record. You know what I'm saying? Which is like, I don't know, like that would be my assumption. So we'll see what happens though.
No, I would hope so too. And I think I would hope he would get hired. To be perfectly honest, I think a lot of times you see the young black coaches in NFL, whether they have a little bit of success and then they get fired or they fizzle out right away, they almost never pop back up. Versus some of these other coaches who have 5, 6, 7 tenures at different places, just spinning out and looking horrible. So I would say hopefully he can land back on his feet this season or this upcoming season. And so he look at what he did and look at like a Joe Judge, and those are two different classes. One obviously deserves to be a head coach somewhere, and the other, might be best sticking with whatever positional, coaching position he had before. So
yeah. Like I say, it's crazy. You had, I get it. Starting off 1-7, definitely not ideal. They're the ones that gave the Jaguars their first win of the season. They lost a couple tight ones. Like I get it. But it's like, man, like the turnaround, like not too many coach, like an 8-game winning streak in the NFL. Like you'd be lucky to, rattle off, 2-3 wins in a row, just, depending on what division you in and what your schedule looks like. I mean, they played, the Ravens during that time. And they're already in the AFC East. They played a very, some solid teams in there during that streak. So I just think like, I was kind of frustrating to see, because you can see, like, and this will kind of shift to what we're going to start talking about now. You see coaches like, Joe Judge and, Urban Meyer. I'm trying, a couple other coaches that got, let go. That, I mean, are really just mediocre, just do mediocre. Like, while the Dolphins are fighting for their playoff lives, you got Joe Judge lining his team up in a, like, QB sneak victory formation, like, I mean, it looked like a max punt protection, like, on their own, like, 10-yard line. And like, I mean, I mean, he's talking crazy, and, interviews, like, called like Washington, called their team like a bunch of clowns, and they ended up losing to them like 25-7, and oddly enough, but like, he was that mediocre, but like when Monday hit, everybody else was gone, and like I feel like the Giants legit got bullied into letting him go. Like, I feel like if people weren't just like, why is this dude still a coach? Like, they might have just been like, all right, like, we'll just try it again next year. But like, I mean, they made the right decision, obviously, in letting him go. But it's, it's crazy to kind of see that, because you got coaches like him, guy in Chicago, just like mediocre, like their team, like, I mean, and Nagy, they ain't been able to move the ball in years. You know what I'm saying? Like, they like have one of the worst offenses in the league. And, he got there, was able to, he like inherited, got Khalil Mack and everything from Oakland, and was able to, had like this great defense when he first got there.
The defense carried them for a year or two, which made everything look like it was,
right.
Man, I'm drawing a blank on that quarterback's name, but it made it look like it was all on the QB. Trubisky, So, which obviously wasn't that good, but it made it an easy scapegoat.
Right. And it's like, you got him. I'll let you go here in a second, but I really feel strongly about this topic. Like, you got him, you got like Zimmer. Zimmer got like top 3 receiver, a top 10 receiver, a top 3 running back in the backfield. Kirk Cousins, solid. A lot of teams would rather have Kirk Cousins, right now than like who they have. Solid defense, and they're losing on Sunday Night Football to Cooper Cup or Cooper Rush, third like second string quarterback for the Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? Like they're losing to, they're blowing leads left and right. Like they're losing like that to Dallas, and then beating like a team they have no business beating. But it's like it's just that constant like mediocrity. Like Brian Flores, I can't name. They just got that receiver, Waddle from Bama.
Yep.
I can't name none of their other receivers. I can't name any of their running backs. I can name a couple defensive players. Like I mean, that's like a real coach. I mean, he's working with nothing. You got these other coaches that have all this talent everywhere, and they can't even, they can't even make an offense sustain a drive like consistently. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
No, I agree. I think there's clearly 2 levels of expectations, and I think a lot of times, whether it's the GM or the owner, whatever, they get their guy, and then they don't want to be wrong about it. And I think we get a lot of that buddy thing in the NFL going, and I think it costs a lot of people opportunity at coaching jobs, and vice versa. It's easier for them to shoot out some of these coaches when they want to bring in whoever that might be the next hot guy. So I agree. It's double standard, and it's frustrating. But I think Brian Flores will land on his feet. I would want to see him get a job, and the rest of the guys I can't see, at least this upcoming year, a head coaching job. And you brought up Scaly. Now, obviously, he has a great young quarterback there. He cost them a playoff job or a playoff position, but his job's not in jeopardy whatsoever, and that's a direct coaching error. But he can turn around and point to statistics. Statistically, he said, that we should do this because I was hearing that he's a real analytical guy. So it's interesting to see what excuses they do accept and just kind of the bullshit that's able to get by.
Yeah, and like to bring him up, I mean, they played the Chiefs like 3 or 4 weeks ago, had a perfect opportunity to like beat them, potentially be like number 1 team in that division, like probably could lock up a playoff spot like in the weeks following that week. He went for it on 4th down like 8 times.
Yep.
Only got it like three times. A couple of those times in the red zone, like one of them was like right before halftime, and he they went for it, and Herbert almost threw a pick 6 like from the 1 yard line. So like, I just don't really understand it. I mean, even this past Sunday night, it was 4th and 1 from their own 18, and they went for it. And you put your defense in a bad spot.
And what sense does that make sense? Like that's like literally football day 1. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can pull up to a middle school practice and ask a team if that makes sense, and they would say no. So that doesn't.
It's like,
that's just out coaching. That's just out coaching yourself, thinking you're smarter than you are, and you should never go for it. You're fucking 18. Right. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you got. I mean, like I said, it's crazy. I hope that Brian Flores. I mean, there's teams like Denver, Minnesota are just loaded.
Yeah.
That just had like these coaches coming, like it's been like a revolving door. Zimmer was in Minnesota for a good little minute, but like
I do think Minnesota's a good fit. I was thinking he would like a good young team trying to partner up with a quarterback is why I said
Chicago would be a good fit too.
Yeah, which is why I was going with Jacksonville. But I do agree. Minnesota would be a great fit, and maybe he could. We talked about Kellen Mond. Maybe he could be the one to kind of jumpstart that. And it's interesting.
It's possible. Yeah, and I think because I was just kind of like looking at there are some teams that are like there's kind of like a piece away or just like just kind of need that stability at coach. Like Denver, I mean they got like running backs, receivers loaded. Like defense is crazy. Like I mean Minnesota kind of the same way. I think Jacksonville that'll definitely be a I think that would be one of those like definitely more of a project.
And maybe a team like Minnesota, who isn't bad, but just kind of, spinning the wheels. Yeah. Maybe just a good young coach coming in there, firing them up, different taste of everything. That could magnify things. Just that could fire up the team and make them something. Make a good little run. So, and as far as that, they're in an interesting division as well. I mean, obviously the Lions aren't the greatest. We're still figuring things out. We bring up Chicago; they're kind of in the similar spot. Green Bay's top of the town, but Aaron Rodgers back. Yeah. So it's interesting. That's not a bad fit. I just hope and it's a shame. Just thinking about this, kind of off topic here, but it's a shame that I mean, what's that? Like 10% of all coaches are black, and when probably 70% of the league is. So it's kind of wild. 10%.
Yeah, I mean, you even have that was like the Rooney rule. I saw somebody making a joke about it on Twitter, where like, the black guys talking to like an owner or something, like in an interview, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we just need more like experience, or like we're looking for this kind of guy." And somebody handed him like Rooney cream or Rooney rub, and he went and like put some on, and he came out of the bathroom white. And it was like, oh, yeah, like you're exactly what we're looking for,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I think, I feel like I'm, try to kind of be more outspoken about this, because there's literally a rule made that you have to
interview
a diverse candidate before you start your process of like looking at other people.